from Kansas State University, this is Agriculture Today. Eric Atkinson with you. Coming up today out of Oklahoma State University, Derrell on the cattle markets. In addition to the current cattle market trends, he'll discuss the expanding drought intensifying in the central and southern plains now, and the contingencies that you cattle producers should be thinking about now if that drought persists through the spring. We'll also hear today from K-State's A.J. Tarpoff. He'll have the full details on the 2022 K-State Cattlemen's Day, set for Friday, March the 4th. That agenda includes speakers that will address several out-of-the-ordinary topics for this event. And later, K-State's Jenny Ifft continues her series on price risk management for you cow-calf producers. That's what's ahead on this Agriculture Today. Welcome once again to another Agriculture Today. Glad to have you along with us, and right away to the cattle markets. And along with us via phone is Derrell, livestock economist, Oklahoma State University. Derrell happens to be in New Orleans this morning, where he's attending a conference. And Derrell, let's begin with a quick recap of last week's trends. Seems as if the fed cattle trade has paused a bit from its recent rally, although there were pockets of strength here and there.
Yeah, I think that's, the industry's been trying to deal again with some slowdowns in processing. That kind of put a little pause on the fed cattle market, although it appears that by the end of the week, this last week, we had kind of picked up a little bit of that momentum again. And, the preliminary slaughter data would suggest that the slowdowns that we've seen are temporary and, in fact, mostly past us at this point. The volumes in the preliminary slaughter data would suggest that we're back up to as good a level as we can have under the current continuing labor issues in the industry.
Right. And the talk is that there's been aggressive bidding at the feeder cattle auctions. What are you picking up on?
Yeah, certainly, again, we've seen strong prices. Part of that is the underlying general trend that we've been in for, quite a few weeks now. The other part of it, I think, is related to some of the storm disruptions we had from the winter storm a week or so ago. That disrupted cattle auction volumes, and so kind of making up for that this last week, and still struggling, in fact, in some cases with auction volumes still down a little bit. So there's strong demand and at least temporarily a little bit limited supply that's driving these markets a little bit higher.
Something that all are keeping an eye on, naturally, of course, what's going on with the demand side, boxed beef prices. A little bit on the sluggish side of late, and one starts to wonder if economic forces are starting to weigh on our domestic demand for beef.
Yeah, that's something that we're keeping an eye on. I think it's really not clear yet. If you kind of look at the normal seasonality of boxed beef prices, they're kind of flat through these first couple of months after the holiday period. So it's a little bit hard to say. Certainly there's some concern and some potential for some inflationary pressures affecting these markets. I don't think we really know for sure. I think we'll have to watch this market a little bit going forward and see that. Certainly we're seeing some adjustments in some specific products that are related more to those markets in particular. But as far as general pressures yet, it's just really not clear at this point in time.
And maybe this muddies the waters more, but we do see some of the pandemic policies continue to be eased. And will that potentially push beef demand higher, or is that already built into the market by this point?
Well, I think some of it's built into the market. Certainly we are continuing to struggle with some COVID impacts. Although having been on the road and certainly, where I'm at right now, the restaurant business is pretty robust. There are some, requirements, if you will, but it doesn't really seem to be affecting traffic from a limited perspective. And I think generally that's probably the case. So I suspect the market, pretty well reflects these things. We could see and probably would expect to see some continued improvement just because we've never really fully recovered from all of the impacts on food service that have been in place since the pandemic really began almost 2 years ago.
Hopefully that day will come. The closer we get there, the better, but it's been a slow trip. Beef exports, what's the latest on international demand?
The December numbers came in and confirmed that, for the year 2021, the beef trade situation was just phenomenal. We set new records in terms of quantity and value of trade, and that certainly has been part of, the very positive and optimistic story we've had for beef markets going into 2022. There's some individual market impacts and so on, and that we'll be watching going forward. But the international component of total beef demand has been very robust and very supportive to the market.
You mentioned other events that might take shape, and the obvious elephant in the room, the political tensions between Russia and Ukraine, whether that will result in an invasion of Ukraine on the part of Russia and the repercussions that might have on a whole host of things, including international trade. Any direct implications of that for our beef sales abroad, anything at all?
In terms of direct impacts, if you look at the sort of typical, global market flows, I really don't know that there's a lot of direct impacts, but there certainly could be some indirect impacts. If we were to see, some sort of major escalation of this situation, just the general impacts on the global economy, obviously the stock market would reflect that. The oil industry, oil prices would reflect that. All of those are things that would certainly then have subsequent effects on many markets, including beef markets. So it is very much a situation that we have to keep an eye on.
Right. Derrell, want to spend the balance of our time right here today taking a look at what's going on here domestically with the weather. And the drought, well, it's been very much well documented in the northern plains and in the west the last 12 months or so. And now it's starting to shift into new locations. The southern plains, the central part of the country as well being included. And you, in a recent article, put some thoughts together on this. If moisture doesn't come to our drier areas of cattle country this spring, what are the market ramifications? They could be rather dramatic, could they not?
Absolutely. In fact, I've done some additional looking more recently on that. And if you look at the regions that have been in drought, so the Southwest, going back to 2020, really the lower sort of Intermountain, Southern Rockies region from Colorado, south and west. And then in the last year, the Northern Plains were severely impacted. And as you say, then drought has developed over the winter here in the Southern Plains. And if you look at the climate predictions, latest outlook from now until April at least, potential development in the Central Plains. So if you put all of that together, it means a couple things. One is we got some data in January on hay stocks for December, which was really kind of going into the winter. And, if you look at that Northern Plains region, Montana, Wyoming, North and South Dakota, hay stocks on December 1st were down 40% on a year-over-year basis. So they're obviously just about out of rope. They, did destock last year. That region had a significant herd liquidation. Face a lot more if things don't change. The Southwest has been in drought for a couple of years. If you add the Southern Plains to it, Texas and Oklahoma, and potentially Kansas and Nebraska, we could be talking about the drought impacting over 50% of the beef cow herd this year. And that would certainly have major impacts on cull cow markets this year. It would change a lot of feeder cattle timing, if not numbers so much, and it has a lot of implications for the next several years if we see that magnitude of impacts.
Well, taking it that this can and hopefully won't happen, but it's possible, what can producers be doing right now to prepare for that contingency? What strategies would you propose?
Even though it's still kind of wintertime, we've got a ways to go. We've got plenty of time to fix it. That's up to Mother Nature. Mm-hmm. But I think it's not too early for producers to begin thinking about how are you going to deal with this situation if that worst-case scenario comes about. We certainly aren't predicting that at this point. We certainly hope that doesn't happen. But I think it's not too early to go ahead and inventory your resources in terms of hay stocks, potentially any standing forage you might have available. Look at your cow herd situation. Start making a list of the order in which you would have to make decisions in terms of culling kinds of things if that should happen. Those are very emotional and tough decisions, and it helps a lot to have a plan in place to help guide you and sort of keep you making decisions in a timely fashion if we get into those situations where we have to do some very painful kinds of management adjustments.
Beyond the cow-calf operator, those who'll be likely running stockers on grass this summer, need they be thinking in terms of potentially adjusting their stocking rates if the conditions warrant?
Absolutely. In terms of the winter stockers, we've already got a lot of struggles with wheat pasture. We've moved some cattle off already. We won't have as many wheat pasture cattle as we think ahead to summer stockers. Those producers just have to sort of stay nimble in the idea that maybe they just won't be able to run the normal kinds of things. If they have both cow-calf and stocker, that stocker component can be the way that they try to maybe preserve forage resources for the cow herd by not engaging in those stocker things. So, again, all of those things will change the timing of feeder cattle production and ultimately then on feedlot production. So we could see a lot of impacts as we go through the year in 2022 if this drought situation does not improve.
Mainly, let's hope for this drought to break down, and the sooner the better for producers. Any parting thoughts on where the markets may head this coming trading week then?
Again, I think we're really kind of picking up the pace again. The biggest sort of concern we've had in the last month or so has been this, once again, COVID-related labor issues at the processing plants did cause some slowdowns. That seems to be past now. So I think this market's going to kind of pick up the underlying trend here. I think, we're going to notice that cattle numbers continue to be tighter in general. And so in the short run here, it's probably going to depend on winter weather as much as anything. But barring, major storm impacts, these markets should perform very well in the next few weeks.
Well, enjoy the rest of your business trip there in New Orleans this week. And, Derrell, thank you for taking some time to visit with us right here.
You're very welcome. Anytime.
Livestock economist, Oklahoma State University, that's Derrell Peel on the cattle markets. We'll return shortly on Agriculture Today. Continuing on now on this Agriculture Today, a full overview of the event that you cattle producers are well familiar with, as this will be the 109th Cattlemen's Day at Kansas State University, upcoming in early March, and we'll fill you in on all the details of this excellent program today. One of the co-chairs of Cattlemen's Day this year is across the way, A.J. Tarpoff, beef veterinarian with K-State Research and Extension. You and the team at the Animal Sciences and Industry Department put a yeoman amount of effort into bringing together this program. You're pretty proud of what you have here.
I'm very proud of this year's Cattlemen's Day, and this is kind of a special Cattlemen's Day because essentially we've had a lot of our industry partners, a lot of producers. It's been over a year since we've brought people to campus. Right. So that's what really makes this year special is this is going to be a special one. We've got some really good topics that are, top of mind. And we're also going to kind of highlight our department to make sure that producers understand the work that we're doing for them.
Again, to stress, in person, Weber Hall and Arena will be the venue once more right here on the K-State campus. So let's walk through the highlights if we might. The morning program will get going after the trade show. That opens at 8 o'clock in the morning. Then you'll set the stage fairly quickly with an update on K-State beef research, AJ.
So we will. We'll have a brief welcome and kind of introduction, but setting the stage for the day is our department head, Dr. Mike Day. Mm-hmm. And he's going to give some updates on all the new things that are happening in the department, facilities, some of our different units. So he'll give a brief overview, but then we're going to really highlight our department, the research works that we've been doing in the department. And it's going to be a fun one because we broke it out into our different sectors of the beef industry. We're going to get research updates that have come out of the department from the cow-calf sector, followed by the growing and stocker backgrounder sector, then the feedlot, and then finally our meats. So our faculty members involved with that will be Dr. Casey Olson, ruminant nutritionist. He'll cover the cow-calf research. Then Dr. Dale Blasi. Dale will be covering the stocker and backgrounder, some of the research works that have been going on there, followed by Jim Juilliard, who will be covering some of the feedlot sector and the works that have been going on there. And then our meats group, we will have Dr. Michael Chow giving updates and overviews of what the meats group has been up to. So it should be a really nice morning.
And the morning we'll round out with something that's traditional but always welcomed and always taken in well by the audience, and that is the economic outlook for the beef industry.
Again, the economic, it's kind of the staple of Cattlemen's Day we've had for a lot of years, and for good reason. We will have Dr. Glenn Tonser from our K-State Ag Econ department, and he'll make the trip across campus to talk about cattle producers about the 2022 economic outlook for the cattle industry, because there's a lot of volatility right now. When we look at inflation, a lot of our trade things, cattle supply, demand, it should be a really interesting talk.
At the center of the agenda would be the lunch. It's the traditional high-quality brisket, right?
The high-quality brisket has returned, complimentary of U.S. premium beef. They've been a tremendous sponsor for a lot of years, and we really appreciate their partnership. So USPB has donated and will be donating and sponsoring the smoked brisket. So we have a fantastic smoked brisket meal. Just to let people know, there will be a Cajun catfish available as well, because it is a Friday.
Very, very good. Tell about the afternoon sessions then. These are breakouts where producers can pick and choose what they want to take in throughout the Weber Hall complex. You have some folks coming in from outside of K-State that are presenting what would have to be considered unique and different messages than what we've seen in the past.
No, so we kind of opened the floor on some of our afternoon sessions and really wanted to focus on what are some things that we've seen the past couple of years and what are some things that would be really valuable for producers. So we took a different stab at it, and we will have one of our rooms dedicated to, number one, covering weather. The weather volatility in the Great Plains. We've got Jeff Becerra out of University of Oklahoma coming to discuss weather patterns, outlook, what we'll be looking forward to here in the near future and afar. So that'll be a really interesting topic. Now, the other, following his presentation, we're actually bringing in a representative from the Kansas Highway Patrol to kind of go over and have a nice review of the rules of the road for our cattle ranchers and farmers. We're hauling equipment. We're using heavy machinery, truck driving, maybe ranch tags, farm tags versus regular tags, as just a good reminder to make sure that we're compliant whenever we're transporting or traveling, our ranch equipment and our vehicles on the state highway systems.
Well, those two of universal interest. Those ought to be excellent sessions to take in. Plus, you have expertise from K-State touching on other topics throughout the remainder of those breakout sessions.
So the other two breakout session areas, one over in the meat lab. We'll start with that. We have Lane Eggers is one of our extension associates. He's a graduate student, but is actually going to be covering some of the meat alternatives and the comparison work that we've been doing between meat alternatives and ground beef. So that's one that producers really don't want to miss. There's a lot of hype out in media and things about fake meat, but this gets down to the science, okay, and truly shows the differences between those products. So Lane will actually be repeating that. So if you want to go to one of the other sessions, you'll still have an opportunity to get over to the meat lab for that. That's one breakout. The final breakout is another very popular topic for a lot of our cattle producers in Kansas, and it's a reproductive session update. And we'll have two of our researchers, Dr. Sandy Johnson, that's located out in Colby, as well as Dr. David Grieger, and they will be teaming up to give a repro technology update, any new materials that are available in the recent works that have been done in the area of reproduction, because as we all know, when it comes to the cow-calf industry, reproduction is king.
Absolutely. That'll round out the formal program. Excellent opportunities here, and we'll talk about registration in just a second, but we don't want to overlook an affiliated event, traditionally, with Cattlemen's Day, and that is the legacy sale that the livestock marketing class puts on every year. That'll take place at the Stanley Stout Center on the campus, and several lots of quality stock will be sold there.
They absolutely will, and the students, they always do a fantastic job, and I'm really excited to see the program that they put together to have our legacy sale. There'll be 40 bulls of 3 different breeds. We'll have some Angus, we'll have Hereford and Simmental ready for producers to come and purchase, as well as 41 females that will also be sold during that sale. So that is immediately following Cattlemen's Day. So after we finish up in Weber Arena and Weber Hall, folks can actually travel down the road to the Stanley Stout Center, and that will begin at 4 o'clock.
Get that on your calendar as well. Now to participating, and all the details are online and registrations are being taken as we speak, AJ.
Registration is open. You can still register in person, but we highly recommend folks get online and get registered. You can go to ksubeef.org, and ksubeef.org, you can find the link to the Cattlemen's Day website, and it'll give you all the information on how to get registered and when and how to attend the event.
$25 per person if registered in advance of February the 25th, and that covers everything, including the meal.
It does. That is for the meal. That's the entire event, the trade show. You get the full day of activities for that.
That's all about Cattlemen's Day proper, the 2022 edition, coming up on Friday, March the 4th. But before we let you go, there is an ancillary event, actually the evening before, that K-State Animal Sciences and Industry has a direct hand in as well. It's the annual Stockman's Dinner. This honors a leading presence in the cattle industry here in Kansas every year. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the Stockman's Dinner, again, our yearly, it's been a couple of years since we've been able to honor a Stockman of the Year, and this has been a long time coming, but we are thrilled to honor Pat Coons this year. And some things have changed a little bit with Stockman's Dinner. We have changed the location. We will be hosting Stockman's Dinner at the Stanley Stout Center on March 3rd, the Thursday, just before Cattlemen's Day. Begins at 6 p.m. Again, please register for that. You can find all the registration information for Stockman's Dinner, again, at the Animal Science website.
Again, honoring Pat Coons, longtime and astute leader in the feedlot industry here in the state. He'll be recognized at the Stockman's Dinner. To learn more about that event directly, go to asi.ksu.edu/Stockman's Dinner, or you can contact Lois Schreiner at K-State for full information on being part of that, 785-532-1267. But all of this information, again, is at ksubeef.org, and you're welcoming one and all cattle producers and anybody allied with the industry to be in Manhattan on the 4th.
It'll be a great time to get back together, to be able to discuss with some of our industry members, talk with your neighbors, talk with folks that from the industry, see what's new in the trade show. Really excited to have people back to campus. And
congratulations to you and the planners, AJ, for coming up with another exceptional program. Looking forward to it. Many thanks to you.
Much appreciated.
He is A.J. Tarpoff, beef veterinarian, K-State Research and Extension. This will be, again, the 109th Cattlemen's Day at Kansas State University. The date, Friday, March the 4th. The location, Weber Hall and Arena here on the campus. Register right away at either site, asi.ksu.edu or ksubeef.org. When we return after the break, the next installment in our ongoing series on price risk management in cow-calf production. You're listening to Agriculture Today. We're back now on Agriculture Today, and a week ago we launched a multi-part series, which you'll hear every Monday for the next several weeks, talking up the prospect of price risk management for cow-calf operations. Along with us, once again, is Jenny Ifft. Jenny is an agricultural policy and risk management specialist with K-State Research and Extension. And Jenny, to remind, the purpose of this dialogue is to, if you will, nudge cow-calf producers in the direction of managing that price risk, perhaps beyond what they're doing currently.
Right. And I like to say that everybody manages price risk. And if you're out there thinking that you don't manage price risk, you probably fall into the category that I would call self-insurance. Mm-hmm. Anybody that keeps the cows after a really bad year in terms of prices has some type of a price risk management strategy. When I say self-insurance, it's mostly all about income diversification. So this could be on-farm income diversification. You might have crops as well, some other type of livestock. If you have a low income year in one, the income from the other might be enough, or is usually enough to get you through. The other one is off-farm income diversification, or I guess you could say getting a job in town. And so, it might be the producer, it might be family members. That does have advantages. A lot of people will do it for the health insurance, but you also get that extra income source, which could help with family living expenses in years when you get your calf check is pretty low.
But that's something that is a common feature on many operations. That is the overall concept of self-insurance. But the next one on the list, also common, flexibility in how one markets their product.
Yeah. And this is a pretty broad category. It could have to do with the type of market or the timing of the market. So in terms of the type of market, your thoughts might first go to value-added or niche markets. So some producers get into direct marketing, and that's worked well for them. That is one option, but it doesn't have to be that. And I've heard of so many different iterations of this. Our cow-calf producers are really innovative. So you might work with purebred breeders. You might work with your feed yard. You might have a special relationship with processors. In terms of price risk, it may provide more stability of price. It may provide a guaranteed price. It may help a little bit not to reach those lows as often. Timing and marketing, it's another one where it could take a lot of forms. I think maybe the simplest one is you might have producers hold on to those calves after weaning for 2 months, 3 or 4 months, even longer. The idea is you might want to wait for better markets in late fall or early winter. So, timing in the market matters, prices cycle. So some producers might try to work with that to decrease their risk.
We move on, though, to the next category, though. This is the one we'll dwell on quite a bit as we go through this series in the next few weeks, and that is price risk management tools available to the producer. And this breaks down a couple of ways.
Right. And these are sort of formal tools where you're explicitly managing price risk. The big one that's been around for the longest is hedging. And so that's when you're going to the futures market, you're buying a futures contract, buying an options contract. There is a certain volume required there. You have to pay some commission. If you do a futures contract, you might get margin calls. That's one of them, and we'll do a sort of an overview of that next week. The other one is insurance products. One example is livestock risk protection. This is a part of a livestock product that's a part of the federal crop insurance program that works a lot like hedging, provides protection against declines in prices.
And what we want to do in the subsequent weeks is go through those tools and how well they work, how they compare, and how they might match up to the more generalized marketing approaches or the self-insurance notion. What will be the best avenue for producers?
Right. We're going to talk about these specific formal tools in a little more detail, and then we're going to circle back. What's your management strategy? Do these tools fit in with your individual operations management strategy?
Very well. As you said, next week, Hedging 101, as you put it, and we will get into that aspect of price risk management for cow-calf production at that time, right here. Appreciate it, Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you.
K-State agricultural economist specializing in agricultural policy and risk management. That's Jenny Ifft. Our time's away for this Monday edition. Thanks for tuning in. Eric Atkinson for Agriculture Today over the K-State Radio Network.